Okay, in this moment, as usual, I give all glory to God. So here we are at the end of one year and the beginning of another year. What are we going to talk about today, or this year?
You can turn your mic on.
That would be good.
Talk about.
Got it on. Is it working?
Do you have a red light?
Yep.
Say something.
Say something?
It ain't working.
No.
It is now.
It's
No,
on.
it is. We're good.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Can you hear it?
We did.
No. Can't hear it back.
There you go.
That's fine.
Somebody always turns the thing down. I don't know why. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, in this moment, I give all glory to God. We have a restart. That's always a good thing. So as I said, the beginning of one year, the end of another year, what are we going to talk about? The first thing is, I want to let you know that this is the beginning of my 7th year here as a minister at Fellowship. And it's also my 10th year as a minister, a pulpit minister, which totally surprises me that I'm even here doing that, so that's great. So 7 is a very strong mystical number to me, and that means I'm really excited about this year. Last year was really good, but this year I could feel even more because I want to see what God's going to speak through to me and where is He going to lead me in my service work. And I'm excited about doing that because it's going to affect you here at the church as well, whatever's going to come through me during this year. So I got a number of points I want to share with you today. Science of Mind, which I spent a lot of time with through the courses, they start off their year by doing 4 different topics of talks. The first one is, what exactly is it? This force, this energy that we call God. And then they go to with the way it works. 3rd week is what it does. And the 4th week is how we use it. So I will bring in aspects of those today and also over the next 3 weeks to let us know about that. So for now, let's just start with the beginning of this new year. I started, or the ending of last year actually, which begins this year. Last year, when I started it, Spirit came up with a vision and what do I want to say, a statement of belief. Did anybody remember what it is? No? Okay. Where I am, thou art, and where thou art, I am, for I am that I am. So this whole year, see, you guys knew it.
Just can't pop that out.
Yeah. So this whole year has been working on that theme, where I am, I am. And so we're going to go into another one this year, which I'll talk to you at the end. But it's all about being where I am with God in the moment. So I ask all of you, if that was the theme during the year, how did it go for you? Were you able to spend time being in the moment, knowing where God is right here with you? Answers? Yes? Okay, great. So a few weeks ago, I put this list of new thought words up here saying we need, because people have asked, how do I express it more in the world? What are some of these terms mean? And so I put them up and I started with oneness down here, which the opposite of that is duality. And I gave some talks about oneness, which is a very important theme because we want to remember that that's what guides us through our world, that we are one with God in all of its aspects. And to go back to what I said about science of mind, saying, what is it? Here's a thought. There is one mind. It is the mind of God. And all experience and all beings are in and of this mind. It is God flowing from itself, through itself, to itself by means of you and me. How does that sound? That's oneness, isn't it? To really know that here's this source, this energy that we call God, the mind of God and the heart of God that's within us and flows through us and as us and through everybody. So there is no separation. There is only one. And I'll talk about duality later because that tends to take us off track about oneness. So it's also, when I look at oneness, what I said to you when I welcomed you here earlier, and that was the belief in the omnipresence and availability of God is the most important thing in the world because it's the only thing that can save the world. So again, it's talking about the omnipresence, the oneness, the availability of God in every situation within our lives. So, we are a spiritual center filled with spiritual beings, all of you that come here and connect with one another. And we're here, therefore, in a spiritual being, in a spiritual center, we're here to understand life's events around us. Everything that happens, we want to understand it from a more spiritual, metaphysical, viewpoint, and consciousness, which again is another word that I talked about and we'll talk more about. That's the first word on our list. It should have been down here, but it's not, but it's okay. So we are here as the divine beings that we are to increase our consciousness, our awareness, our thinking, how we see things in the world. We're here to increase that consciousness to Christ consciousness, which is a way of being, so that we can experience this oneness with Source, with God in every situation in our life. And when we do that, then we can move out of fear and ego, which causes separation. And I'm going to talk more about those in the coming weeks too. If we do that, if we see the oneness that are here, we let go of duality, and through our consciousness we move through fear and ego, we experience all of these, which gives us to this unconditional love. To really feel that every moment of the day. There is one mind, and it is the mind of God. So if we can get to the point of experiencing this love through all of this and raising our consciousness, then we become more awake. And we can actually become aware of what we are creating or manifesting in our life. Because as I've said before, the external is a reflection of the internal. So if we're not happy with what's going on outside, rather than working on changing that, we got to go inside and change us. We got to change the inner. And the deeper that we go into understanding that, then we become more powerful with our thoughts and our emotions, and we can become more aware of what we're going to create in the world, rather than waiting till after it happens. And it goes, oh God, I didn't want that. I would never have expected that to happen in my life, but it happened. Why? Because something was going on that we needed to get clear of. So we want to become these divine beings that are so totally connected with Source, with all of this here, with the presence of God, being the mystic as Jesus was, to connect to love, to know that we get to demonstrate, which is a word I forgot to put on there, but I'm going to talk about it today, to demonstrate our beliefs and our thoughts and what we're creating and manifesting. So based upon that, let's look at some of the events that happened this past year and see how we did with this. The first big event that happened in the beginning of the year was the election of a new president. And this event gave us an opportunity to look at our own thoughts and our own emotions, and where we may have been judging another person or another political party. For 4 years, every 4 years we have this opportunity, don't we? A new party puts a president up and we elect it. And what happens is, one half the country is happy and the other half the country is unhappy. And that's because we get all caught up in the external of what's going on, whether it's our party and our beliefs or it's not our party and our beliefs. Instead of being separate from that, disconnecting from that and starting to look at what are our own thoughts, what are our own emotions that are going on, where do we have judgments about someone else? Those are things we really want to wake up to, beloveds, so that we're aware of our own life. We are the masters of our own life and not letting everything else outside of us guide us or control us. Maybe as a solution we ought to have an election of both a Democrat and a Republican so they can work together to run the country. What do you think? But then again, that's a doing thing. And as I've said before, it's very difficult to do things when we haven't changed our own being first. So anything that goes on out there, when this happens, we got to go inside and say, how am I relating to this? Where am I letting it take me off track? Where have I got anger or fear or joy and happiness around all of it because of something external? Our joy and happiness should be because that's who we are, not because of something that happened, but we can be happy about it going, ah, this is who I am. I'm more a spiritual being. I've changed my thoughts and my emotions. I've taken track of my life and control of my life, and I'm happy about it. And then I start creating happy things outside of me. So we always want to ask, how do I feel? When anything is going on in our lives, how do I feel about that? And get in touch with our emotions and our thoughts. And remember that we are here for our soul to grow through all of this to experience this. That's our goal. And if we're not experiencing it, something's wrong inside that we need to change. Not out there, not through blame and attack and wishing it was somebody else or wishing it was different. Or when we get involved in our relationships and wishing our spouse would be different, or my boss at work would be different, or I wish I had more money, or all of these sort of things that we get caught up into at our human ego, and we get into fear and separation. So, the deeper that we go into our consciousness, the more we become aware of this truth. After that, the next event that happened that I remember was later in the year we experienced really strong natural events, flooding in Texas and Florida, and fires in California. And if you remember, during the summer, I gave a talk about that, as did Mark the following week. And we talked about how we had the opportunity to see our oneness with nature, to see that we're not disconnected from everything that goes on out there, to understand that nature has its own agenda. It's working on clearing itself out as we move into the fifth dimension, which we'll be talking about more down the road. Nature's doing the same thing, and it's clearing out all of its negativity. And so, because of our mass consciousness, we have to be aware that our thoughts go out and join everybody else's and become one. Again, there's no separation. So, we want to experience, when that happens, we get to experience the outcome of mass consciousness and what it tracks to us. So, we might understand that there are very intricate relationships that exist between the human collective thought flow and the weather effects and climatic patterns. There's no separation. We are part of that. That means that all of our collective thoughts come together to play a role in the world. In other words, mass consciousness has an effect on everything. And we want to wake up to that. If we're joining in negative thoughts with other people, it's time to separate those negative thoughts. Change them to positive ones. Change the mass consciousness, because humanity collectively can and do play a role in the formation and the effect of that which other people consider to be natural disasters. It doesn't just happen. And especially it happens in times of polarization, political upheaval and fear, which we've been having a lot of. So there was a combination between what went on in most of the country with the election of the president, and later on, all the stuff that happened in our natural disasters and the flooding and the fires. It wasn't separate, beloved ones. It was all a continuation, and it continued with some other things, which was the third thing. We had a lot of women speaking up about sexual abuse. And it was about time that it happened, and so it took down a lot of men who thought that they were in power in entertainment and politics and so forth. And that's something that we've had, this masculine energy that's in power. And somehow we've made jokes and we've made statements where women are the weaker sex. But then we treat men and teach boys not to be in their heart, how they have to be, don't feel your feelings, don't cry, all that sort of stuff. And so there's been this necessity for change. And as I talked to you when it was coming up, I mentioned that this is all about the divine feminine energy. It's rising up, and it's time for it to rise up in a necessary way so that we could balance out the masculine and the feminine energy, so that we get rid of control and we go more to our hearts, which is where the feminine energy is at. And to be able to express itself to help balance. And the more the divine feminine comes up, it's going to bring the divine masculine up in the men and all of us as well. So this is what I'm saying, that we need to look at the things that happen in the world from a more metaphysical way instead of getting caught up in the drama of everything that's going on. So as a result of the divine feminine coming in, I want to read something to you to connect to that. Quote, "How is man to recognize his full self, his full power, through the eyes of an incomplete woman? The woman who has been stripped of goddess recognition and diminished to her physical body for physical comfort only. The woman who has been silenced so that she may forget her spiritual essence because her words stir too much thought outside of the pleasure space. The woman who has been diminished to being less than she is. I am sure the men who restructured our societies from cultures that honored women had no idea of the outcome. They had no idea that eventually even men would render themselves empty and longing for meaning, depth, and connection. There is a deep sadness when I recognize or witness a man who can't recognize the emptiness that he feels inside. When he objectifies himself as a bank and truly believes that he can buy love with things and status. It's painful to witness the betrayal when a woman takes him up on that offer. He doesn't recognize that the creation of a half-woman has contributed to his repressed anger and frustration of feeling that he's not enough. He may then love no woman, or keep many half-women as his prize. He doesn't recognize that it's his submersion in the imbalanced warrior culture where violence is the means of getting respect and power, as the reason he can break the face of the woman who bore him 4 children. When woman is lost, so is man. The truth is, woman is the window to a man's heart, and a man's heart is the gateway to his soul. Power and control will never outweigh love. So, may we all find our way. How was that? And we need to give applause to Jada Pinkett Smith, who's the wife of Will Smith, who wrote that. So, that's great because we want to continue. If we can really look at what's going on and get a deeper understanding of it, we can contribute to it. We can help it grow. All of us can wake up and say, where, especially for the women, where do I need to allow my divine feminine to come out more? And for men, where can I support women in their divine femininity? And knowing that it's going to benefit us as men in our divine masculine as well. So those were some of the external earthly events that happened to us, and I'm sure every one of you had your own experiences during this past year, whether they were positive or negative, and they were all based upon your own beliefs. They were the demonstration of the oneness and the thoughts that you have with inside. All of the events that happened to us and to everybody this past year were an opportunity to connect to the Christ consciousness and therefore love. All of them. No matter what it was, we can look at it. We're here in this school, is what we call this planet. We're here to learn all of these things. And we have these experiences to teach us. And so it leads us to what we are demonstrating from our new thought beliefs. Raymond Charles Baker said, "Only our belief and never the appearances bind us." Did you get that? Only our belief and never our appearances. So it's not what happens outside, it's our beliefs. Now, some students of this philosophy of New Thought get caught up in the trap of informational illusion. That's thinking that the knowledge of principle will change their lives forever. Just the knowledge of it, which was the problem with the movie The Secret as far as I was concerned, because it gave people an idea that all they had to do was think about it and they would have it. They would have a new car, they'd have a new bicycle, they'd have this. And so all it was thinking. It didn't talk about changing your consciousness. You have to go and change your consciousness first. You have to change who you're being. So that's what I mean when people get caught up in just saying, oh, all I have to do is just change my thoughts. Yes, that's a big part of it, but it's also the emotions inside. It's who you're being, your whole total consciousness, how you see everything. That's what needs to change. So, when we demonstrate an experience, we cannot go beyond, that experience cannot go beyond our belief about ourselves. It has to relate to our consciousness. So we got to wake up, beloveds, and be aware. Where is our consciousness at? Now, spiritual health is knowing that each and every one of us is the messenger and the message. You ever thought about that for yourself? You are the message of love and oneness. You are the messenger of love and oneness. And your life should be a demonstration of that. That's why we come here. And we need more of that. Truth is not truth unless it leads us to our inner self. So we're always going inside. Money, people, places, and things are never the problem or the answer. Consciousness is. Change our consciousness and change our world. So to raise it, and to have more physical demonstrations in our life, which is what those are when people do attract things to them, it's a demonstration of your consciousness at that moment. To do that, we need to remember that all of our dreams are waiting to come true for us. So what you all need to do this year is to sell yourself on your dreams, because they come from God. And your vision that you may have. Think as your dreams think, see as they see, and stick with them. And what that relates to is the thing I've said all the time here. To see as God sees, to know as God knows, and to love as God loves. That's our consciousness. That's what we want to move more into. So, what we learned this past year for us at Fellowship. With so many things going on in our lives and in this world today, it's easy to get distracted and to take things for granted, including our blessings that we get all the time and our true purpose on earth. And what we share here at Fellowship of Spirit is rare indeed when you look at what's going on in the world. And it deserves our consistent appreciation. So as the minister, my second vow as a minister of spiritual peacemaking was to feed the sheep of God. And what that means to me is I'm responsible for helping you in your own soul growth. To be here as the leader, to give talks, to support you through all the ways that God has guided me to support you, to wake up to your consciousness so you start demonstrating and have the life you deserve to have. As a result, I want to tell you this. Fellowship of Spirit is far from being a nice spiritual center with typical teachers or teachings. Instead, we are here to channel the presence of God as directly and purely as possible, and yet in a form that's more about love and inspiration and less about dogma and politics. We teach the people that come here to make God a priority in their lives. And therefore, because of that, we have a highly inspired and collaborative leadership in our board and the other groups that we have. We have also only the best minister, guest speakers, healers, workshop I just added that one. And workshop facilitators who are changing the lives of all of you that attend and those that you have connection with, because you take this home with you and it affects other people in your life. Think about that it's not just us here in this place, it's the world. So we are fulfilling our goal, beloveds, of manifesting the love and light of God in this world and our community. What a powerful belief and statement that is. Essentially, instead of just getting by with Sunday services and occasional weddings as is done in most churches, we have chosen to be a spiritual center where people come to. We had this statement before that we are the path, the well where all people come to. Yeah, so that's huge when we think about that. That we're not just a church. We are the spiritual center, and what we do is we anchor the Spirit of God in this world, and we help raise the consciousness of people in every way possible. And I provide a lot of spiritual ceremonies and events to expand that. So, beloveds, based upon that, I'm going to state that this past year, we began to own our role in God's greater plan to a whole new level, whether we were aware of it or not. Wherein we recognize fellowship as the beacon of light in the world, and we all play such a huge part in holding this light in the town of Farmington. I share this point with you not to brag, but to us to accept our responsibility to make a difference in this town, and thus throughout the planet. You are all a part of it. We are all one right here, and we are taking these steps to teach us how to connect to love and to help everybody else connect to love. So, you are a part you need to take in it. Know that this is what's going to happen this year. This is why I give you this message. You need to be open to your own growth and the growth of this church. And I have a goal about that I'm going to talk with you in another week or two. But we got to look at our own growth and the growth of this church. And people coming in here that want to get this message, and we're here to support them. So as a result, the theme for this year that God has given me is living new thought with demonstration. So that's what we're going to be doing this year. People are going to start demonstrating more in their life because they're getting this new thought belief more. They're getting more connected to God. So I am so happy to be here for this next year and for all that's going to happen. And I ask you to join with me and all of us together for your own growth and the growth of this center and manifesting your dreams. Namaste.